All right, so our group, the PSP group, is Gun Control on Campus. I'm Dustin.
Josh.
Erica.
Monica. Kinsey.
So the introduction, our topic was gun control on college campuses, and the stance that our group chose is that it's not necessary for students or faculty to have firearms on college campuses, and we came to that conclusion because of the sources that we found and the research that backs up that they'll end up doing more harm than good. And from those sources, there was data that showed us that historically guns on campuses have not been a good idea and leads to problems. So one of the sources that we're going to talk about is the Guns at College from TAB Online, and it was a survey that was handed out to 15,000 undergraduate students from 134-year colleges, and approximately 3.5% of the sampled students reported that they had a firearm on campus, and the study found that students with guns are more likely to be male, white, or Native American, to binge drink, to need alcohol to start the day, to be members of a fraternity or sorority, to live off campus, and to live with a spouse or significant other. And guns were positively associated with driving after binge drinking, being arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol, and damaging property as a result of alcohol ingestion. And the second resource is from campaigns to overrule campus gun bans have failed in many states. And we chose this resource because it stated that it was talking about how if you arm the good guys, that it's going to be better in case of an emergency. But this resource talked about how attempts to respond to an active shooter from bystanders will impede actual law enforcement ability to take control of the situation. So we thought that it was a good resource to use against guns on campuses.
Alright, so with all situations, especially decisions that have kind of polarizing effects both for and negative, there are definitely people who lose out to us kind of determining that there's no need for guns or concealed carries on public campuses. Big ones, the Second Amendment activists. There's plenty of them throughout the U.S. who definitely love their gun rights and want to have the ability to feel safe and own a firearm, but we thought there's no need for that in a college campus. But if someone does own a gun and they are in college, they can't have it with them, so they lose out. That kind of goes into gun owners, where you might have a gun for safety purposes, but if you do go to a college campus, you have to leave that on your personal property and can't bring it with you. All right, so other losses, self-defense and class safety was kind of the biggest pro-argument for allowing guns on college campuses, and two main things they kind of drew off of were the Northern Illinois shooting that occurred in 2008 and the Virginia Tech shooting that occurred in 2007. There were 5 casualties and 14 injured in Northern Illinois, and a significantly higher amount at Virginia Tech. And the Lipka source talked about, as Erica mentioned, how arming the good guys could have helped that situation, and it could have maybe immediately impacted, but in the long term it could cause some other problems. There was also a study that we found by Lewis and others that showed kind of a split view. It was about 50% of people that were surveyed, college students, they said that they don't think that there should be concealed carries or anything like that on a college campus, whereas there were still 40-some% other people that agreed that there should be. So you can't really make both sides happy with this issue. That's kind of one of the tough things about it.
And then, so as far as more losses, so it'll make colleges more reliant on the police and security, so this will cause more money to be spent, so that's a loss in itself, kind of, but we decided that it was worth it. And then how the benefits outweigh the losses, it's a safer overall campus environment, and like Erica said, we really have the good guys with the guns rather than just a kid that passed a class type of a thing, which this leads to a much smaller risk of shooting on campus. And with all those extra patrols, it'll make a much safer all-around college experience.
Kind of just to add to that too, the benefits of not having guns in the hands of these people who took an 8-hour class. From my personal experience, getting gun certified by the DNR Minnesota, there's really not a whole lot to do, and it's more about how to handle a gun and less about the actual dangers of having something in your hand that you get mad or an incident happens, you're not thinking straight, you could end up killing someone. So it's like one of those things that we don't think that the classes to begin with are good enough, so there's no need to kind of let these people who have just like a basic understanding have guns on campuses.
And that was something we talked about in our process too, was that the DNR gun certification for Minnesota is more so aimed at hunting and hunting techniques and like trail safety, and it doesn't really translate into like an everyday carrying a gun around a campus setting. It just, there would need to be another class or something extra because what we have now isn't working.
The context of the education is just not up to date anymore.
There's another thing too is one of the sources we had mentioned how police go through months of training before they're allowed to handle gun on duty, whereas the 8-hour mark. And a lot of law enforcement were quoted in the various sources saying that they just didn't think that was enough.
And even if they take the class, like in college, you get stressed, and people have depression and anxiety and stress from classes, everything. So that can cause people to go kind of crazy sometimes. So we don't think it's smart to have it in the
college is like
college
a unique mental health situation that you can't really account for in an 8-hour training.
So the process of our project, these are the 3 concepts that we really applied to our group project from our leadership class. The first one is we all did our active roles of being on the balcony and being on the dance floor. We really made sure that all of our members did this by scheduling out tasks and making sure everyone had a different role to play each week with the assignments. So sometimes you were more on the balcony just because your task wasn't as action-based as next week's task could have been. I think this really helped with us getting different perspectives and just seeing how the group worked as a whole. The second concept was key-based. We definitely had to plan and strategize, execute our projects. We divided right off the bat when we made our timeline. We assigned each task. Everybody had a different role. And then we did timelines associated with each task to get the group work done. And then obviously we had to strategize how that was going to get done. The second is shared leadership. Because of how we divided all the roles, we all had different active leadership roles or task roles. I know that's something that we talked about in one of our readings. Sometimes your job would be to initiate the assignment, and sometimes it would be to close it out and make sure that all the little details are included in it.
Alright, so we had some conflicts that came up. Like, one of them was that I had problems with traveling for cheer, and so we had to figure out how to get this video done. So I used my app and emailed my niece for an extension. We got it. So.
Another thing too is initially I was kind of in agreement with everyone that there was no need for the concealed carries. There's a need for gun control on college campuses, but I was kind of 50-50 on the whole concealed carry piece kind of going into it. I was kind of like, yeah, there's no need. But after like reading through a lot of the research, like I personally kind of had my viewpoint shift a little bit. And it was one of those things, like, having a group of 5 and having the other 4 people kind of, disagree with me. It's like, oh, we'll just roll with it. It's not like I was adamantly opposed to the idea of, like agreeing with everyone, but it's just kind of something that I guess we had to work through a little bit as well. Just kind of getting everyone to agree and find information to support our agreement on the substance.
And being able to accept our changing viewpoints, because I know, like, ethically, I felt like guns definitely should not be on campus. There's no place for it. But then as we researched and reviewed our sources and talked in our group, my viewpoint definitely shifted a little bit too. But society kind of has this negative view on guns, so it's hard to express those views in a group project, especially when society doesn't support it necessarily. And I think that's everything.
Bye guys. Thanks for a good semester. We're just gonna come over here and turn you off.
How long?
I don't know. I can't.
I forgot to cover part of my thing.
I can't end it.
9.